Hello, everyone, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World. I am your host, Ryan O'Clavin. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about what we feel like are the best hotel lobbies for the Walt Disney World resorts. And to join me for this discussion, we've got Charles Boda.
Hey, folks.
Steve Porter.
Hello.
And Craig Williams.
Hi.
All the parentless people here at the Diz. No, that's the wrong.
Dark.
I meant childless. We have parents. Sorry. I didn't mean to get us started on such a sour note, but it only goes up from here. Anyway, we are talking about best hotel lobbies. And that is just a reference to people like to leave comments on the videos about how we don't have children or we need a lady's perspective. And I have said this in other episodes, and I will say it just really briefly here. I understand. I am not kidding myself. I'm not pretending to have the viewpoint of a child or to understand a child other than like my nephews and the friends I have who have children and whatnot. But when we do these shows, we do them with the people who we currently work with and who we have available to us. And sometimes that changes, sometimes that rotates, but we are offering you our perspective. So it is always our opinion, our perspective, and that's what you are getting. So we do appreciate the feedback always, but telling us who's not here, it doesn't really do anything for me. Sorry. Yeah.
Also,
you don't say.
I like to think we have the emotional maturity of children.
Yeah.
And therefore, we can at least get some perspective.
I
there.
agree. I went to the dentist today, and she spoke to me like a child, and I found it incredibly comforting. So anyway, with that said, we are just going to jump in. We have selected 4 of the lobbies that we think are the most worth speaking about today. And let me go in first with the Polynesian. So the Polynesian lobby. Who wants to talk about this one? Craig hates it.
I don't necessarily hate it, but it's really a 50-50 one for me. It is definitely very iconic when you walk in. Some would argue that it was more iconic when you still had the big giant fountain in the middle. I also really love the little Maui guy, though.
I was going to say, do you know his name? Does he have a name, or do we just call him?
I believe he's Maui. So
okay.
Not the same Maui that we know from Moana, but I believe it is.
Maui.
Yeah. But no, I like walking in and seeing that, and the lobby is very open. It's the whole aesthetic of right now. It's everything needs to be open air. Technically, on a great day, you can walk into the Polynesian lobby and look straight out through the doors in the back, and you can see Cinderella Castle, as long as your eyesight's good. Mine's terrible, so I can't really do that. But then it's just very warm and inviting in terms of the colors that are used, the light browns, the stonework, everything there. It's got a beautiful mural of the Polynesian Village Resort that was done by Kevin and Jody. Of course, you have your shopping on both the first floor and the second floor, and then you have just a ton of dining options from Kona Cafe to the sushi bar that's right there attached to Kona, to Tambu Lounge and Ohana. Technically, as you start to wind your way back the hallway, eventually you get to Captain Cook's and Trader Sam's on the bottom floor. But and then if you really want to say it, it's just slightly outside the lobby. I mean, they could have easily made it indoors if they would have just extended the lobby. But then you have the spot where you can get your Dole Whip at. So there's a lot to like about it. For me, though, it's one of those things, it's a love-hate for me. I do love the style of it, and when you walk in and no one's in there, it just feels peaceful and majestic. But then when you're talking about like right at the dinner rush, at the worst, or the breakfast rush for Ohana, when people are just in there screaming and yelling, it's for some reason, because it's big and open like that, but still relatively closed in, it just captures noise, and it can be very noisy.
I agree with you a lot there, and I just realized the reason I'm 50-50 on it is that during the day, with the sunlight coming in, or even if there's a storm, but with the sunlight coming in and the cool air there, it feels very breezy and it feels very comfortable, and I like to grab a coffee and walk around and relax, and it doesn't feel as rushed as like parks do. So it gives that relaxed vibe. I love it during the day. I do not think it's as great of a night resort. I don't think the lobby, or not resort, but lobby anyway. I don't think the lobby is
it's not as impressive when you enter at night versus during
exactly.
the day.
I don't think that the aesthetic, the relaxed island aesthetic, really translates over to their nighttime.
Yeah,
I can see that for sure. I mean, especially because like how Craig talked about, like when you do come in and on a clear sunny day, you can like see the castle kind of through the glass doors in the back behind the Maui statue. But I like this lobby visually. Like I come in, I do like it better than the one that was there before. I'm not saying I disliked the one before. I just really love that Maui statue. And I enjoy. I like that this lobby has like a character that's kind of like a symbol of the resort that's right there, and I don't really think of the other resorts as really having that. Any of them particularly?
They don't have,
I can't
like, a
think
mascot.
about. Right, exactly.
There's one,
Like, yeah.
and we'll talk about that.
Okay. I just can't think of it off the top of my head, but yeah. So I enjoy. For me, I always say the Polynesian to me feels like of all the resorts, it has that immediate, like you're there and you're like, I'm on vacation. Like it immediately has that. But when I think about like the type of lobby that I really enjoy, I want it to be one that I spend time in, maybe that feels like homely to me, or homely's not the right word. Comfortable, homey, not homely. I like a good ugly.
Ugly.
Oh yeah, but and so my thing, the more I think about it, like the lobby's great for all the reasons we said, but then like it's not somewhere where I'm gonna sit and I want to take out my computer and be like, okay, I'm gonna work here for a little bit. This is comfortable. Like I don't actually find there to be any like super comfortable areas to like sit in and work. And for what you said, like the noise kind of echoes through there. But on top of that, like the statue makes it's got the waterfall a little bit in it still. It does, right? Or am I making that up?
I think there's like a little bit of
a little bit of the and so like I always can hear that noise kind of echoing through. So it has like this wind tunnel effect almost, but
has no one mentioned the smell?
Well, I was going to say the smell.
You were going to, and I actually held off.
Yeah, the smell of the lobby, I think, is like one of the most iconic parts about it.
Yeah.
I think some will argue that the old version had a stronger sense of that smell because I think part of the smell is the chlorine in the water that used to be in the larger, like garden rainforesty area of the centerpiece, but yeah, it's like the mixture of the food that's upstairs and everything else, and probably smells that Disney pumps in. But yeah, I love the smell. So
okay, well, we'll move on from the Polynesian. That's how we feel about that one. And let's go over to the other monorail line, one that we're talking about, which is the Grand Floridian. So the Grand Floridian's got like I don't know. This isn't true that this is the resort I've been at the least, but it does feel the least accessible at times, even though it's on the monorail resort line. But it feels very guarded almost, or maybe I just feel very judged when I'm there.
Yeah, I think there's a reason for that. Is that they describe it as like a Victorian beach aesthetic, and the Victorian aspect of it makes it feel like very like austere and sterile, and kind of everything is super white, super clean, super nice, but just it's not welcoming. It's not homey.
It's the flagship resort.
Yeah.
So that's the one that was just, especially in the 90s, that was the go-to one. That's why when you have Full House going to Walt Disney World, well, of course they're staying at the Grand Floridian. It's
Frankie and the Hex all stayed there as well. Not Frankie and the Hex. That sounds like a band. Frankie Hex family on the middle stayed there.
Yeah. And then I'll even throw it out there because it deserves that nod. When the Beach Boys recorded their music video for Kokomo,
you just say to the Beach Boys?
Did you just have a problem with that in unison?
Yeah, it's what, they're not around for over 50 years because they're terrible at what they're doing. So I'll just say that. But
I can hate plenty of successful people.
You can hate
Boys are on that list.
You can hate Kokomo, but the Beach Boys as a whole. No, I will not agree with that. I will duel you over this, sir. But I mean, even they filmed a music video out on the beaches of the Grand Floridian, having that in the background. That's the point of it. The Grand Floridian itself is like it in terms of Walt Disney World. It is technically the pinnacle of what you could get out of a resort. And like you said, with that comes in an air of austerity and, I don't want to say smugness because it's not really fair.
Stuffiness. I think is
for sure.
A little bit of a better word.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it described as like you might feel uncomfortable walking through the lobby with a wet bathing suit on.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
But It reminds me of like Home Alone 2 when Kevin kind of goes to that hotel for the first time. The Plaza. And he goes in and like he's like, wow, I feel like Kevin in Home Alone 2 every time I go into the Grand. So there's no question about it not being nice. It is a very beautiful lobby. There's always there's fresh flowers right in the beginning when you get in there, and it's got
there's a greeter.
There's nods to Mary Poppins, yes, and they just lost.
Sadly.
Yeah.
I think the point where their aesthetic works best for me, because once again, it always looks beautiful, but I never feel at home there. I never feel comfortable there. But during Christmas, when they have the gingerbread house set up, then the whites mixed with the reds that they put up for Christmas decorations a little bit, and that contrast, that winter feel with it, with the gingerbread houses, I think that's when the aesthetic really shines and really works to the benefit of it.
See, but then you also have the issue is that everyone's coming to the resort to see the gingerbread house and all the decorations there. So then that's my issue with it is that is the one time a year that the Grand Floridian lobby is bearable, but then it's just packed with people. So it takes that away. I don't enjoy it because it's just not comfortable. I've sat in probably every single seat around the lobby area, and I have never found a seat where I'm like, I want to be here for more than 10 to 15 minutes. And it's a shame because I think the benefits right outside of that are a ton. There is some great shopping there because they don't have just your standard.
Greg likes to wash his hands.
They don't have, well, I'm getting there. They don't have their just standard shopping with, Disney gifts and all of that. They have actual like clothing. If you need to go, if you said, oh, I lost all my clothes, I don't have my bag anymore, you could easily go there, spend way too much money, but completely replace your wardrobe and look very nice with it. You have Misner's, you have the live music
Is that how you say
plays in there.
That is Meisner's.
Meisner's, I don't give a crap. It's all the same. It's a lobby bar. That's all that matters.
They have the live music up there.
Yeah, you have the orchestra, which is I do love listening to the orchestra when they're out there playing. It does get loud when you're up on the second floor with but there's so much to love there. There's the salon that is up there. You have Basin. There's so many amenities around this lobby. It just, for me, it's one of those places, like, if I'm not constantly moving and hitting the stuff in there, I can't just sit and relax in it. So that's where it ultimately takes a ding for me.
There is no question that this is a really beautiful lobby. I mean, it's very wide open. Like you said, it's a lot of the white panelings. It's got like kind of old, I don't know the word for the type of elevator that's a little more exposed,
Birdcage elevator?
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, but there is an actual bird cage there as well. So, but there's no birds in that bird cage though, right?
What happened to the birds?
I don't know, but they have this like bird cage that's just there, right?
They did.
They not with us no more. But yeah, I haven't necessarily been uncomfortable in this lobby. We've had to like work in that lobby before, and I felt it functional. And they do some cute things. They do the processional during the
Princess Promenade.
Yeah, and I think that's like cute too. And I think if you're looking to take some like prom photos, if you're listening, I'm doing air quotes because I don't know how else to refer to these as, but it's got beautiful stairwells that bring you up to the level where Craig's talking about, where you can catch the monorail or go to Basin or any of that stuff. So there's a lot of really beautiful photo opportunities in this too. So there's no question for me, this is definitely one of the best, like most beautiful lobbies in Disney World, I think. But we'll move on to the next one, and let's do, Charles, why don't you talk about the Animal Kingdom Lodge?
Oh, okay. That's convenient. It's very comfortable. It's got that, that's the trend. It's got the big, wide open aesthetic thing. But I like the subtle elements of nature that kind of go along with it. The water that starts in the lobby but actually moves towards the outside of the lobby, the way it was designed with elevation so that you're sitting in the lobby and you see that they have this perfect view of the savannah going out the back of it, and then can go down the stairs to walk out at the ground floor and everything like that. So it's also really, really great at taking in natural light, and it doesn't have a lot of like heavy lighting inside the lobby itself. Uses a lot of natural light and then accent lights. So that,
well, and to carry on your point from what you spoke about the Polynesian, you say that doesn't have the same effect at night. I would argue that at Animal Kingdom Lodge, it's like the lobby transforms when the sun sets, because those accent lights that you're talking about come a little more prominent at night, and so it gives it kind of another vibe, and a comfortable vibe.
I think because of it, it always kind of feels warm in there. Like in the daytime, the lighting is low enough and just using the natural light, and then the lights pick up, but it still stays consistent, and it's consistent in its warmth.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things about this lobby too is I don't know why it's just I like it, but I'm terrified of heights. Is that it has that walkway across at the top that's got the bridge, the Indiana Jones type bridge, if you will. I cannot think of the words right now to say.
It's not a rope bridge, but it's kind of similar.
Sort of, it looks like it is. It looks like you could have an adventure at any moment up there.
And that's what I like about it.
Yeah, and this is a very towering. This lobby is like you walk in and it's going to take your breath away because it's very wide open. I mean, it's several stories up. And what I like too is the seating areas are kind of sectioned off here. So when we spoke about the Grand Floridian, I feel like that seating area is just kind of okay, here's the seating area. It's in a big kind of square, and then little places. Whereas at Animal Kingdom Lodge, they have chairs and couches that make up on a little throw rug here, and then a couple more here, and so you can be isolated, but also be a part of.
You might randomly find a little nook that you didn't notice, or a couple chairs, or a little place that is convenient to relax. And I've worked from there a lot. I know Steve has worked from there a lot too, just sitting there, and it's comfortable to stay for a few hours. And that's one of the things I like about the a good lobby should be very inviting, very welcoming. It should be kind of its own thing. You want to spend time there, you want to visit it. So Animal Kingdom is easily one of my favorite lodges.
I also just throughout the decoration of different. This was clearly inspired from Africa, and so as you're walking around, there's just different.
It's display pieces under glass, and they'll talk about what it means for them and where it comes from, and the design. And what I also like too is it changes, so it's not the same thing every time you're there. It kind of it changes with the season too. We actually recently, for anybody who's interested, on wdwinfo.com, we've got. One of our contributors, Chuck Mararchi, just recently put out a 3-part series about the history of Animal Kingdom Lodge, and he explains where they got the lighting, where they got the inspiration, who designed it, and everything. And it is a really, really interesting. If you like that lobby and you want to find out where it came from and how it was designed, give those a read. They were great articles. I like the lobby. I like how the lobby too has this vantage point where you go if you go to the back of the lobby, if you come in and you go down to the right, if you were going to go down to Boma or Jico, or what is the bar that is halfway down there?
Victoria Falls.
I just like that it's levels, that it has it, so it still feels like it's all a part of it, but it's Victoria Falls is halfway down, and then you get to the next level down, and it's down there. Yeah,
they overlook each other.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool, and what you spoke about with the water over there, that whole area is really neat stuff. So, what do you think about the Animal Kingdom Lodge, Craig?
I'm passive. I think it's comfortable, but I don't. What you guys see as the positive in it, I don't like the one big giant window, because for me, at night, it's incredible because it's the entire color scheme in there is balanced. But during the daytime, anytime you're looking out that window on a bright sunny day, you're just blinded. So unless you're facing, your back is to the window and you're looking that way, it's not what I like. I'm very light sensitive a lot of times, so it doesn't play that well with me. I do love... It's
hard to take a good picture in there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love Victoria Falls. And and again, the seating's comfortable in there. I like it at night. But I'm usually in there more times at daytime. And it's not a place I like to be for a while, mostly because of that light. But that's just my personal taste.
I think I've spent most time in there at night. So that's where my experience is coming from. I want to say, now that you're saying that, that's a good point.
I think you hit the nail on the head, though, with one of the reasons I love it so much is the adventurous aspect, with the tiered levels and the big grand thing and the lighting. Yeah, taking a picture in there is very difficult with all of that backlighting. But it's a really adventurous, fun, like, it's comfortable, but it does kind of get me in the mood to, like, go out and do things, and I enjoy that about it.
Well, that actually transitions very well into our next lobby, which, Steve, do you want to talk about this one?
Yes, Wilderness Lodge. I'll say, it starts before you even enter the lobby. There's this, like, epic music that kind of plays outside before you even enter, and it builds up the anticipation of, like, what is this? And then you go in and the doors open, like the automatic doors open, and like you're like Animal Kingdom Lodge, like your breath gets taken away because it's just so grand and epic.
Yeah.
And it's supported by like 4 main giant support beams that are all like just giant wood pieces that have etched in animals and like moose and deer and rabbits at the tops.
What are they called?
Totems.
Tiki totems. That's the word.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm using the wrong word.
Yeah, it's just wide open, and like Animal Kingdom Lodge's lobby, it also feels very warm. And then I'm all about the smells, and I think it's probably one of the top 3 smells of Walt Disney World for me. So yeah, I think that there's so much to do in there too. Like,
was it in our best and worst smells Disney World episode?
I don't know.
I know Polynesian was.
Tell us if it was, because it should have been, because I've determined that it's one of my favorites.
Tell us what we said.
Yeah. Yeah, you got Whispering Canyon right there. You have
you've got the fireplace too. Don't forget about the fireplace.
The fireplace with the rocking chairs.
Yeah.
You also have the little stream that starts at the top in the lobby and then trickles down into a waterfall that's displayed kind of out in the back section of the resort. And yeah, it's just beautiful there. There's the little store. I always like going to that store. They have some. I always find it's one of a lot of the deluxe resorts have their own merchandise, but it's one of the few where I've found merchandise for Wilderness Lodge that I've gone on to purchase. So that's
there's a bar too that's like right as you're like going down the hallway, like. What is that bar called?
Territory Lounge.
Territory Lounge, and I think that's pretty nice too. I mean, I've only been in like once or twice into there, but because if you're there, we spoke about this in another episode. I like to go to Geyser Point or something like that. However, if maybe it's too cold for you at Geyser Point or something like that, in that rare 2 days of the year.
Just before that bar too, my wife always loves to point it out because there's a giant map of Utah, and that's where my wife's from. So you can. It's kind of cool. It's like it tells a story of the people that adventured out to Utah for the first time and kind of the trail that they made when they were out there. And there's also, I mean, for pin collectors, they always have one of the biggest pin board collecting or trading cork boards there. Not important for me, but for some others it is.
I like it around the holidays too because they put up the Christmas tree, big Christmas tree in the middle, and it's very because the lobby is so grand and tall that you've got a tree that's like I'm sometimes more impressive I think than the ones they put in the park.
We just mentioned this on our favorite staycation episode, but also on the third floor, there's that little reading area desk area that's so great. So,
It's got that cool, like, adventurous feel that we just talked about with Animal Kingdom, but it doesn't have that same problem with the lighting.
No.
That had it. It's got that very homey, very warm, welcoming, sit by the fireplace lighting, so it doesn't suffer that same thing that you mentioned about Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's. I don't care what anyone says. Wilderness Lodge is the best lobby, and I believe in any Disney property. I would say at least what I've seen. So Walt Disney World, Disneyland hotels, the couple that I went to in Disneyland Paris, I have never enjoyed anything more than the lobby of Wilderness Lodge. It's just absolutely beautiful. The details in there are just they just keep going on and on and on. I mean, they even They even run the one tour where you go around and look at the stuff in the hotel with the ranger. So it's that impressive. And my one favorite aspect of it mentioned that Maui is the kind of the logo for for Polynesian. But here, I love that right outside the gift shop, you have the totem statue with Humphrey and Mickey and Donald and Goofy, and that's like. Their merchandise always changes, but that almost was always a staple of their merchandise, is featuring that on it. I believe there's a broken totem somewhere back there that Pete had that just fell off the shop.
It's funny that that's always there, because that's what when Eli went on his Alaskan Disney cruise, that's the totem that he brought back from Alaska. And I was like, this looks familiar.
Yeah. And for my family, at least, we stayed at Wilderness Lodge a lot growing up, and so that was kind of our benchmark, is you always have this totem that you can always go and take a picture in front of, so you can see how you're growing up. And so nice. We have that generational of every trip, seeing how we've gotten taller, fatter, skinnier, all over the place.
That one time your sister disappeared out of the photo. Was that you?
That was Marty McFly.
Oh, that was Marty McFly.
Yeah, that was McFly. But no, so there's just, it is the most comforting place. Like that, like we kind of talk about in an aspect, when the next hurricane comes through that hits, if there was one Disney property that I would want to go and stay at and use as my home base, it would be Wilderness Lodge.
I always, on that note, it's one of those, it's the lobby in there. The second you're in there, I was like, man, I wish there was a snowstorm outside right now. Because it's one of those lobbies where you're like, I want to be snowed into this place, and I want to be like, have my hot chocolate with my book, and I want to be reading,
Well, they, that, I didn't realize this because I'd only seen it at Fort Wilderness, but I recently went to the Pacific Northwest. I went to Oregon and stuff, and there were a lot of cabins and structures out there, and I didn't realize that, like, how prevalent that actually was, where everything is just lumber and stone, and it feels like comforting because it is so strong. Everything feels indestructible.
Yeah.
So you really relax, where everything in Florida is like poorly made shacks and hurricanes coming through. Like, we're not used to big giant structures. So having that down here is a lot of fun. And finally getting a chance to see those in person, like a lot of the designs that they based that off of, was really amazing. And they did a really great job, really accurate, designs and depictions of that kind of building. So it just feels amazing when you're in there.
Yeah. Well, those are our, what we believe are the four most noteworthy, I would say, lobbies. So the best lobbies at Walt Disney World, specifically. If you have, so that was the Wilderness Lodge lobby, the Animal Kingdom Lodge lobby, Polynesian lobby, and the Grand Floridian lobby. So if you have one that you think is the most noteworthy, please, if you're watching this, leave that in the comments section for us. Tell us why as well. We are open to suggestions on future topics if you'd like to hear us discuss them from our perspective. Remember that. But thank you guys for having this discussion. If you are watching this on iTunes, feel free to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. If you're listening on iTunes, please rate and review all of the podcasts that we have out there that I hope you are subscribed to. And I think that will do it for this episode of The Best and Worst of Walt Disney World. We'll see you next time with an all-new episode.